Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we are driving the BMW X3 M Competition. This is a car that has been in the making for quite some time now, and BMW waited for 3 generations before launching an M version of its popular SUV, the BMW X3. What is it though? Well, as the name suggests, it's an M version of the BMW X3. But wasn't there already an M version of the BMW X3? No. What we had so far was a series of M performance models. Those are quite different from the full-on M cars because they don't deliver the same amount of performance. They're basically meant to be a segue between regular X3 models and M cars. So no, we didn't have BMW X3 M so far. This was introduced in early 2019, but sales didn't kick off up until the middle of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a relatively new car on the scene, and it delivers the answer to a question that everybody has been asking for a long time. Will BMW ever offer an M3 Touring? Well, the answer is still no. BMW refuses to offer an M3 Touring, but you now have the X3M, which is basically an M3 Touring but on stilts. So how do you differentiate an X3 M from a regular X3? Well, you use the usual BMW M trick book. Up front you have a couple of different styling cues. The air intakes are different on the front bumper. The middle section of the bumper is a bit different as well. That's it up front. You also get a double slatted grille and an X3M badge up front. Then on the sides you'll notice the bigger brake discs behind the wheels, and of course you'll also notice the gills on the front fenders, because that's a trademark BMW M car feature. Of course, still looking at the sides, you'll also notice the M side mirror covers. Around the back you'll notice a new diffuser which houses 4 exhaust tailpipes, which are quite bigger than on any other model in the range. And of course the quad setup tells you this is an M car because no other X3 has a quad setup at the back. And you also get a massive spoiler at the top of the tailgate. So those are signs that this is an X3M, not a regular X3. Will most people notice? Probably not, unless you really know what to look for. This car just looks like an X3, and I love that about it because it has a certain sleeper feel to it. And a lot of people will challenge you at a stoplight thinking you're in a regular X3, and then you should see the surprise on their faces when you beat them in a quarter-mile drag race. So yeah, this is everything you need to know about the outside. On the inside we have the same layout. The differences are the steering wheel, which has 2 red buttons up top, as you might notice. They allow you to save presets for all the settings for the transmission, for the gear changes, for the suspension, for the acceleration, and so on. So you can save a preferred setup in one of these buttons and use it on the fly. You don't have to go into the menu and set up certain parameters for each one of these settings. You also get a new and different instrument cluster. It's a digital one, but it's specific to M models. It's the same as on the M5. It looks really good and I really like it. I prefer it to the new ones. On the BMW X3M you also get the old infotainment system, the iDrive 6 system, which I also prefer to the new one. You have this new gear shift lever, which tells you this is an M car. It has an M badge on it and a different shape. and you have a button up top which allows you to change the brutality and the speed of the shifts the transmission does, and you have the biggest differentiator compared to any other X3 in the range is the comes in the seat department, because we have M seats. These are really comfy and they look great, as you can see. I absolutely adore them. I would have liked a bit more room on the cushion, but I have a larger than average ass, so maybe that's just my issue with it. You sit really nice and different in an X3M than in a regular X3. If you watched my reviews of other X3 models, you might have heard that I'm not a big fan of the seating position for the driver, because it makes you feel like you're sitting on top of the steering wheel, not in front of it. So on the X3M, somehow that issue was fixed. My guess is that the rails on which the seats are mounted have been lowered so that you have a lower seating position, which makes you feel more in control of the car. It's just a hunch right now. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it does feel like a more natural driving position inside the X3M and the X3M competition. So yeah, you have good visibility all around, front, sides, and in the back. It's a great position and you feel in control of the car. But how does it drive? Well, the main star here is the engine under the hood. That's the new S58 engine. It's a 3-liter straight 6 power plant based on the B58, which already won numerous awards around the world for being like the best six-cylinder engine in the world. But on this model, the S58 has 2 turbochargers, so it's a twin turbo setup. It has a different intercooler, different air intake, different exhaust, and so on. So it is based on the B58, but it has a lot of different components that make it more viable with the higher levels of power this car has. So on the base BMW X3M, you have 480 horsepower and 600 Newton meters of torque. On the X3M competition, you have 510 horsepower and the same amount of torque. The competition model also comes with a revised suspension, which has stiffer bushings and so on, so a bit different elastokinematics, which help the car keep its weight in check better than on the standard X3M. Will you notice it? Chances are you won't. The changes are subtle and they don't make a huge difference, to be honest. But a lot of people will go for the competition model because the price difference is rather small considering the overall price of these cars. So I'm guessing the competition model will be the best-selling one. In terms of straight-up acceleration figures, BMW claims 4.2 seconds for the X3M and 4.1 seconds for the competition model. Independent tests have shown these cars to go under 4 seconds quite significantly. That said, how does it drive? Well, as I said, the engine is the star of the show. It has a great pedal response. It has copious amounts of power and delivers quite a decent soundtrack. I mean, I would have liked a bit more volume, but it's decent anyway, considering it has a particulate filter on. You can't really expect a lot of sound coming out of the tailpipes. But it's really elastic, so you have plenty of torque in any gear. It delivers it smooth. It's not brutal as the S55 was before it. A lot of people complained about the S55 that it was so brutal in delivering power that it took you by surprise and could send you into a tree or something. That's not the case here. Of course, we have MX drive on this car, so you have all-wheel drive, and that makes sure you won't have your rear axle skidding around and hitting into a tree. Unlike on the F90 M5, basically this is the same all-wheel drive system as on the M5, but you don't get that pure rear-wheel drive option because BMW considered it wouldn't be useful. I would have liked it because it would have been a unique selling point compared to every other SUV out there, but I understand why BMW chose not to offer it. So yeah, the car is agile. The body is kept in control rather nicely, considering how high the weight sits on this car. It's actually a really good driving sensation. You have plenty of grip. The car will get its tail wagging if you press on the gas too much, and it's a really interesting feeling. You can drift it if you want to, especially in four-wheel drive sport mode, where more power is sent to the rear wheels, and you can partially turn off the DSC mode to allow for some skids to be done. So it's a really great driver's car. The main problem I find with the X3M is the fact that it's trying to be too many things at once. So this is supposed to be an M version of an SUV. So basically, why are people buying SUVs? Because they're comfortable, because you don't have to worry about hitting a pothole and being stuck there, because they offer great practicality, because they are utility vehicles by definition. So all those factors don't really match up with the character of an M car. So an M car is meant to be sporty, first of all. It's meant to be the epitome of performance for BMW, and it's supposed to be a blast to drive. So you can't really have all those things in one. I mean, for an SUV, the X3M drives like a dream. I think it's the most agile and the best driving SUV you can get right now. The problem is it doesn't do that great in the practicality and comfort department because it is such a great driver's car. The thing is, it's pretty stiff around now. Unless you're driving on silky smooth roads, the suspension will throw you around quite a bit. The seats are comfy and they make up for it, but that's not enough. So you will be jumping around inside this car because it is really hard on the suspension. The suspension is also pretty loud for an SUV, so that might be an issue. It's not terribly disappointing and it's not terribly bad, but it's something you might want to keep in mind. So all things considered, oh, and there's another thing. This car delivers so much performance, you don't really have a place to use it. I've been driving it for a couple of days now, and I rarely got to use all the 500 horsepower under the hood because I was driving mainly around town, and there's simply no place for you to use all that power and make the most out of the efforts the engineers put into creating a suspension that really handles the weight of this car. So you don't really get to use all that performance the car brings to the table on a day-to-day basis. Sure, if you're going to go to the track, you're going to have the upper hand. You're going to have the edge on the competition around you if we're talking about SUVs, but on a daily basis, the performance is just too much. You won't be able to use it day to day. So if you're looking just for a fast car that can also be comfortable and you can use it around town, the BMW X3 M40i seems like a better option because it's also cheaper and a lot more comfortable. That's not the fault of the BMW X3M. The car was created to be this stiff. I mean, you can't have all this performance without the car being stiff. It's not a minus per se, but you just need to know that this is an M car. By definition, it really feels, it exudes the character of an M car, and that comes with a couple of trade-offs. So if you're looking for a fast car, fast SUV that's also practical and comfy, you might be better off with the BMW X3 M40i, not with the BMW X3M. The extra price you're going to pay for the M version, you're only going to get some use for it on the track. So if you're going to track this car, just go ahead and get a BMW X3M. If you're not, you're better off with the M Performance model. So that being said, this has been my review of the BMW X3 M Competition. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about it. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Let's get this channel to 1,000 subscribers next time.